Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your service. McGregorized. How are you all? Hope you're well. Now, I've done a few tributes and obituaries on the channel for heroes of the silver screen that have sadly passed. And, you know, it's not a pleasurable thing to do. But I feel that's a mark of respect for someone that I've grown up with in movies, someone I've respected, that, you know, I've got to pay my respects and give a bit of a tribute to them. But what I didn't realise was just how thick and fast this sort of thing was going to start happening. But then when you think about it, you know, actors and stars and performers that you've grown up with, and you've lived with and you feel like you know them, you know, you're going to get a slew of this happening. Let's just turn this up a bit because it's very apt. So sadly, we've got another one. Great actor of stage and screen, award winner, big barrel-chested, gruff demeanour, Brian Dennehy, the great Brian Dennehy. So often mistaken for Charles Durning, as he himself has said many times. Great character actor. I've got a very small playlist of stuff from his highlights. Because he died yesterday, aged 81, of natural causes. They haven't specified anything else that I've seen. And it's a very sad loss, without a doubt. As I say, great, big, larger-than-life character, but he could play bad guys. He's very good at that. He could play charismatic heroes, the most unlikely of heroes in the likes of FX and FX2 and Bestseller, you know, and other stuff. Blue Heat. As he always said, he doesn't look like a movie star, he doesn't sound like a movie star, and yet he did seem to find a real bit of appeal with audiences. Of course, what we're playing here is First Blood, Jerry Goldsmith's awesome score for First Blood. Now, First Blood is a classic film for a vast array of reasons, but one of them, you know, you've got to have a great hero, obviously, and in John Rambo, Stallone's performance, you've got it in absolute spades. But to have a good hero, you've got to have a good villain. You've got to have an antagonist as well. And in Sheriff Teasle, Jack Water, you know, who's a complete and utter bigot when it comes to out-of-towners and hippies and, you know, just strangers in his province. He's superlative. He's no physical match for Stallone, but in temerity, in perseverance, and in severe, you know, determination and outlook, and, you know, a supreme unwillingness to give in, Brian Dennehy excels. I'll now turn that down just a wee bit. Should have a remote control, shouldn't I? You know, just at the side so I can do it without leaning across you like that. But Brian Dennehy as Sheriff Teasle is perhaps his most iconic role. He's got so many others. The benevolent, lovely, fatherly alien in Cocoon. They come back to Earth because they've got friends they left behind in these what look like, you know, big stone obelisks under the sea, and they hire Steve Guttenberg. What's happened to Steve Guttenberg? Who cares? I didn't mean that. To help him dive down and with his crew, all aliens, and bring them back and put them in this pool of rejuvenating water. And of course you've got the old folks home who discover the powers of this pool and they start getting their youth back. Oh, it's a great, heartwarming and yet heartbreaking film as well. But Brian Dennehy has this wonderful, there's so many great moments in it where, you know, when the old folks begin to realise what it can do, the powers it can have, and there's one guy there who really doesn't want to get involved in all this. It's wrong, it's stupid, no. And his poor wife Rose, he loves her, he's devoted to her, but he's a bit of a curmudgeon himself, but he loves her, and then sadly she passes, and only then does he think, the pool. And, you know, with James Horner's tragic score, he takes her out to the pool and bathes her in the pool, but of course it's not working. And Brian Dennehy comes in and he says, the pool doesn't work anymore, I'm sorry. And he's already angry because they've all been diving in there and it's led to the death of some of the aliens in these cocoons. The life essence has been drained away. So he's not happy but he sees the human angst and trauma, and he does that little the jaw gets set, as he realises, oh no, there's a human cost as well to all this. And Brian Dennehy nails bits like that. A twinkle in the eye, which he has in Cocoon, when he actually pulls the human fake skin down to reveal this glowing amber light beneath, because they're light entities. Silverado, where the great Silverado is such an all-star cast, including John Cleese as the most unlikely sheriff in Arizona, with a bowler hat on as well. Like, today my jurisdiction stops here, because he's just had his hat shot off. But you've got Brian Dennehy plays this corrupt sheriff who's the villain of several people in the movie, and they've got to go to the fabled Silverado for the final showdown. Kevin Costner, Kevin Kline as well, Danny Glover. It's a tremendous movie, a rip-roaring old-style western, but beautifully done. So funny, so exciting, so rousing. And Brian Dennehy once again portrays a guy in charge of the town, a guy whose fingers are in every sort of pie going. A bit like Sheriff Teasle, but when strangers come in, he's got to make his mark, he's got to show them who's boss, But he's also charismatic. It's not easy to do that sort of thing, to be a villain and yet have a charisma. All the vintage Bond villains had that, amply had it. But Brian Dennehy nailed that sort of thing. And yet he could play a hero in the likes of, as I say, bestseller opposite James Woods. James Woods is the hitman who tries to get this ex-cop to write his career, his biography. Clever stuff. He's also appeared in Gorky Park, the Russian murder mystery. He's in a great slew of movies, but his performances, and people forget he was in Peter Greenaway's very bizarre character deconstruction and expose of the dark psychosis of the soul and the mind in Belly of an Architect, where he plays the titular architect who begins to have pains in his stomach, and during this great big, is it an unveiling of one of his structures or what? I can't remember. But his whole world begins to unravel around him, and he just descends into, madness. It's clever, it's unusual, but it shows that range that Brian Dennehy had. As I say, on stage as well, Death of a Salesman and Days Long Journey into Night, which he actually performed in London as well. I want to go into a bit of a sort of an area which is perhaps not what he's best renowned for, but does figure in his performances, especially in First Blood. In First Blood, what you don't get told in the movie is that although John Rambo is a Vietnam veteran, Teasle, certainly in the novel, but you get tones of it in the film. You do see stuff on his desk in his sheriff's office, like medals and stuff, and photos in the background, which allude to his own military background. He's meant to be a Korean War veteran. So you've got the two, they're both war heroes, they've both seen carnage, they both know the psychosis of warfare, but from different outlooks and different generations. And of course, Teasle now believes in full and utter power in his town, but he's a friendly guy. He knows all his men, really well. He knows their families. He knows every member of the community. He might have a playful skit, at some of them, but strangers coming into town, no, he's got no time for them at all. Next thing we know, we got a whole bunch of you guys coming in here, and he doesn't want it. But there is a glimmer there when he discovers, John Rambo, the Vietnam vet, is a Green Beret. It doesn't make one goddamn bit of difference. It's just one man, he's out there, he's wounded. And, people start fucking around with the law, and all hell breaks loose. But he realises there's an envy, a jealousy of what Rambo can do. And also it harkens back to, I should be respecting you for what you've been through and how well you're dealing with my posse and all the National Guardsmen, when they go out and hunt them and Rambo comes out of nowhere, all dressed up, gets the knife to Dennehy's throat, and you actually see the line on Dennehy's throat when the knife comes away. I'm telling you the law. Out here it's me. Don't push it. Don't push it. I'll give you a war you won't believe. Let it go. Let it go. And Teasle just collapses. Now, you've got to view that in many, many ways. He doesn't just collapse because, I could have almost died there. And Rambo said he's took out the entire posse. He's injured and incapacitated them all brilliantly, but he hasn't killed any of them. Galt fell out the helicopter. There's one man dead. It's not my fault. I don't want any more hurt. But Dennehy's Teasle collapses. He's in shock. He's almost killed. He realizes, God, this guy is good. This guy is really, really good. But he also, there's a glimmer of the real Brian Dennehy. Brian Dennehy was ex-US Marines, but he's a peacetime Marine. He never served. He never saw action. He was never injured. Just served his time quite peacefully. But he did come out and he bragged about having served in Vietnam. And in his own admission, he said, once I started that lie, I couldn't dig my way out of it, and it just got bigger. It snowballed. I feel totally forever ashamed that I said that, because there's real men and people that served out there, made sacrifices, and I do not mean to detract from that, to steal any of their glory or thunder. It's a stupid mistake I made, and I wish I hadn't done it. But once I dug into it, I couldn't get out. Teasle is that. Teasle makes an epic mistake when he tangles with Rambo. He clearly does realise, shit, I've brought this down on my town. This is my fault. My own attitude towards what's turned out to be another war veteran and a decorated war hero at that, like himself. And he's like, shit, I should have just gone the other way. I should have respected him, let him have his burgers and his drinks and stay a night in town and then move on. Why did I do this? But because he started on that road, it's a long road, don't forget. Once he starts on that road, he also can't get out of it. He's now got to follow this conflict through until the end. Very similar to American and Vietnam. The allegories run thick and fast with a lot of these movies, particularly First Blood, which is not just a shallow action-adventure movie. It has so many different levels of psychology and study into, post-traumatic stress disorder and the nature of warfare, the nature of heroism. Teasle and Johnny Rambo both epitomise different ends of that spectrum, and Dennehy and Stallone equally epitomise those different extremes brilliantly. But yeah, Brian Dennehy, as I say, and comedy as well, and to play a likeable, the big, buff bear of a man, but still such a great, warm personality. Here's Cocoon again. It's just beautiful stuff, isn't it? But a guy who could also perform on stage as well. Actors on stage don't often translate well to actors on screen, and vice versa. There's a great many that can, but the vast majority can't work in both mediums. Dennehy, who I never saw, by the way, I remember many years ago when it was Long Day's Journey into Night at the what theatre was it in London? Mrs. Kilt-Man is a huge theatre buff, and our first many years together, we'd go to the theatre every week, sometimes twice a week, any kind of production. What I didn't tell Mrs. Kilt-Man for far too long was that I didn't really appreciate live theatre. I admire it. I think performances, it's a different style altogether, and there's far more craft to it. We could go on endlessly about this, but I did not. I'd rather be in a cinema audience watching explosions and stuff. Look, it's horses for courses, but I did enjoy a lot of these productions. And when she said, "Oh, let's go and see this," and I was like, "What? I've never even heard of it." And then I saw Brian Dennehy's name, and I was like, "That's Sheriff Teasle. It's the guy from Cocoon. Go on, let's go and watch that then. Let's go and watch that." And something happened and we couldn't go in the end. Damn it! So I never got to see him on stage, which I'd love to have done, you know. Well, you always say the sort of thing now, don't you? When you regret, should have done that. So, Brian Dennehy, marvellous character. He'd fill a screen, he would take over. He was a great accommodating actor with ensemble casts. But once he's on screen, you're looking at him. And again, back to First Blood, because it's the thing he'll be remembered for most, rightly or wrongly, rightly I would say. In all their scenes together, Rambo and Teasle, it's Teasle that you're watching. Teasle is the one who has that, Rambo has that bewildered puppy dog look the whole time, until he turns, you know, full-on battle mode. But there's more manipulation, there's more mind play, there's more going on behind the scenes with Teasle. And Dennehy could bring that to everything. Like I said with Cocoon, when he, you know, Bernie, you know, the pool doesn't work anymore, I'm sorry. And like, Bernie just starts, oh Rose, starts crying for her, you know, and she's in the pool and the water's not working. And Dennehy's face just, I can't do it because I've got a chubby face. And then again, so is he, so how can he do it and I can't? His chin just goes, and there's a look in his face. And just that look, that facial expression conveys absolutely, you know, a tidal wave of emotion. And it's, not many people can do that. That works on the big screen. How does that work on the stage? You've got to be bigger on the stage because you've got to pronounce and enunciate your lines to the people on the back row, or you know, up in the galleries, and any expression, it's got to be bigger. You know, well, that's a guy that could do that. He could stand there on stage, I know, and do that little chin wobble, and everybody will have seen that and felt it, the raw emotion inside there. Tremendous stuff. He did a voice in was it Diego or Django in Ratatouille as well, which is a great movie, Ratatouille. So he lent himself to other stuff as well, you know. So there's a great fun aspect to him. He was also a functioning alcoholic for many years of his life. Again, these are his own admissions. You know, I'm not casting aspersions. And he said, you know, in the end, it ran its course. Because I wasn't a dangerous or violent alcoholic. I was a functioning, working alcoholic, and I enjoyed it. He said I had some of the best times of my life during that period, and because of it. But he said he began to see the effects it would have on people nearest and dearest to him. So after that, he stopped, but only because of the effect it saw on people around him. But he himself enjoyed it. So he's not saying, you know, I regret doing that. Because it was fun and it worked for me, but in the end it just had to finish, and I respect that, you know, because not only have I got a cup of coffee there, I've got a whiskey as well. I'm loving this combination, folks, really am. Coffee and whiskey. The caffeine sets you bouncing, the whiskey just mellows you out, so you don't know what you're doing. I'm undulating. But yeah, Brian Dennehy. So the news came to me late last night, and I thought, oh no, 81 seems young, doesn't it? You know, especially when I did a video, the previous video was on Captain Tom Moore, who for the NHS and the whole COVID-19 and the whole charity thing, he did 100 laps of his huge garden, and he's 99 years old, and he's almost 100. In a couple of weeks' time, he will be 100. And he's raised at now 17 million, which is unbelievable. He's 99, still sprightly. Brian Dennehy, he might have been an alcoholic, he might be a big fella, but he would always come across as very fit, very healthy, very active, very vibrant. And 81, and as I say, natural causes, so, you know, God forbid we hear that this has anything to do with COVID-19. I would not like to hear that. But, you know, Brian Dennehy, big guy, Sheriff Teasle, you know, he is fantastic, you know. Well, the man said, clean him up. Clean him up. And that antagonism between him and Stallone is just magnificent. It's one of the best in cinema and in literature as well. It's one of the best rivalries that you've got going. I really think that Stallone missed a trick with Rambo Last Blood, because it was meant to go back home. The way you have First Blood, you have Last Blood. He really should have brought Brian Dennehy back. I remember saying when that film was in production, bring Brian Dennehy back. I did a video on it as well. Bring him back. And because at the time I looked at footage of him, I looked at stills of him, I read up on how he was at the time, and he was fit and he looked great. But he could easily play, and I thought it'd be great if the two of them ended up having. I don't think Brian Dennehy would have done a full movie, but he could have come in at the beginning and at the end, maybe, and maybe they've met begrudgingly, and at the end the two of them would have to work together, because now even Rambo's a much older man, and the two of them would and maybe Teasle would save his ass. I don't know. You know, it's a film that will never be seen, but it lives up here. But yeah, Brian Dennehy. Let's go on to a final payoff. I mean, you ask anyone, a career spanning decades, and absolutely, you know, it's got hundreds of credits to his name. Jack Reed, he did that detective show, a series of TV movies. I only ever saw the first one, but it was good. I just never got around to watching the others, and they've got a bit of a cult following. Blue Heat with Bill Paxton, where they're all a bunch of cops who are taking down narcotics gangs, and then because of the corrupt department they're working for, they all get fired, but they pursue. One of them gets killed as well, so it's a gang of four of them, and they pursue all these criminals again in their own free time. A bear of a man, but a tremendous actor. And I think the best actors are the ones that really, they're not chiseled, they don't look like, the epitome of a Hollywood leading man or lady. Character actors, it's what's in here, it's what comes out of these eyes, what comes out of the mouth, it's how you manipulate the screen, the cast around you, how you utilise that dialogue, how you bring a character to life. It's all well and good standing there looking absolutely buffed up and chiseled and like, yeah. And you know, I like characters like that, you know. But there's the ones who aren't, you know, the good looking, you know, superstar, chiseled features, they're the ones who can act, because they've got to rely on their talent far greater. Brian Dennehy. It is such a shame, isn't it? So many. You know, every day you're losing someone from Hollywood. So every single day. I could be doing these every day, sometimes several times a day. But it's when the news hits you, and people were messaging me saying, Brian Dennehy's dead. And I said, I know, yeah. You're going to do a video. And I thought, And then I realised I've opened that door to doing this. But also, I want to. I grew up with this guy. He's in some of my favourite movies. Look at him. That's our dog boy. And now he's dead. He's dead because that psycho out there. And he was sparring with what's his name? Colonel Troutman, Richard Crenna, you know, because they have a little quiet drink together when they think he's been killed, you know, in that mine entrance, when a National Guardsman, you know, Lieutenant Clinton Morgan, fire that thing, just let me get out the way first, you know, and Rambo goes up against these weekend warriors, and they have a little discussion, and they sort of begin to see eye to eye, but even that ends up volatile, you know, because, well, what would you have done? Would you have blown him away or given him a big sloppy kiss? You know, I don't know, as Troutman says, until I met him, you know. Brian Dennehy said, I salute you. Folks, on more regular business, there are masks arriving today. So guys, you know, there'll be some more reviews coming later on today. But for now, let's just stick with Big Brian. God rest his soul. Rest in peace, Mr. Dennehy. You were larger than life. You dominated the screen, dominated the stage. Another great hero has now passed to the biggest performance in the universe. See you later, folks.